Back in June of 2016, Valve released a new piece of VR software called Destinations. This was originally supposed to be Valve's demonstration of photogrammatic scenes, essentially taking a lot of different digital pictures, stitching together a 3D mesh, and making it look like you're in the area that the pictures were taken. This started as experiments in Valve software around 2014, when the first photogrammatic scenes were being shown off behind closed doors. Now, this is not the point of the video. Instead, when Destinations came out, everybody data mined it like they do everything. And back in June of 2016 was the first time we saw the acronym HLVR. This started years of speculation and conversation on exactly what Valve was developing for their next big VR title. In February of 2017, Gabe Newell announced that there are in fact 3 major VR titles, 2 in Source 2, 1 in Unity. And ever since, everybody has kind of just been waiting for some information on Half-Life VR or HLVR or whatever it actually was. Back in the summer of 2018, many leaks were being seen in Steam VR Home and Dota 2 and any other Source 2 related platform. And essentially what we were seeing was a lot of different gameplay elements, enemy elements, and engine improvements to be able to create the ultimate Half-Life experience in VR. So what exactly is HLVR? Up until this point, we haven't seen a screenshot or actually had a Valve employee explain to somebody what this game is. Well, there are a few assumptions a person can make. First of all, this is a linear, story-driven first-person shooter in VR. In the same way that Gabe Newell announced Artifact as being the Half-Life 2 of card games, HLVR is going to very much be the Half-Life 2 of VR games, and to be completely honest, the industry needs it. The numbers that have recently released have only shown about less than 1% of Steam's entire market base actually owning a VR headset, and half of those even being a Steam VR specific headset. The HTC Vive did do okay, but according to these numbers, it was not a massive success, and that can be chalked up to the price, the enormous fee of entry for other equipment, and of course, the lack of real software. Everybody, the VR developers, the VR enthusiasts, and the players all are waiting for Valve to do something, and for Valve to succeed, they need to produce the best piece of content that the VR marketplace has seen. And that means pushing boundaries, not just being the next job simulator or space pirate trainer. Those games are great, but Valve has been developing virtual reality since at least 2012 and maybe even earlier. All of that research and development, the billions of dollars behind the company, there is a lot of anticipation and very high expectations for Valve's implementation of a VR game. Yes, we are waiting for 3 different titles for Valve to release, but it looks like we're not getting all 3 of them at once. If that were the case, we would know just as much of the other 2 as we do HLVR, or at least the one that's also being developed in Source 2. As of now, it looks like HLVR is the main focus, and as I've mentioned in a prior video, Valve is straight up telling people in tours that their next major announcement is one of these VR games, and so it's very safe to assume that that announcement is HLVR. Now, you can extrapolate exactly what we're going to expect from a gameplay perspective from the Dota 2 and Steam VR Home leaks, but to be completely honest, there's not a whole lot there to say. There's revivers and different types of head crabs and maybe some weapons, but honestly, what you should be expecting is the most immersive piece of gameplay that you've ever seen in virtual reality. I expect Valve to be pulling all of the best ideas from the community and inserting their own. Immersive gunplay like that seen in H3, immersive storytelling like that seen in virtual reality or Accounting Plus, immersive environment interactions like that seen in Job Simulator, and easy to understand enemy encounters like that seen in Space Pirate Trainer. This is going to be an amalgam of everything we have seen in Generation 1 of VR, and to be completely honest, this is more of a send-off of Gen 1 VR than it is an introduction of Gen 2. Generation 2 VR requires new hardware, and this is where the leaks from yesterday come in. Valve is developing their own VR headset, and I have heard from many different people that this headset is further along than I originally anticipated. On top of that, Valve is going to be bundling a game with this hardware. It's safe to assume that they're doing this based on Nintendo. Gabe Newell straight up told me in person that he is jealous of Miyamoto. Nintendo develops hardware and software alongside each other, and things like the N64 controller, for example, were developed with Super Mario 64 in mind. Gabe Newell wants that. So he has his own manufacturing plant now. He has hired a hardware team that rivals the size of any other team in Valve software, and they are developing their own in-house virtual reality headset with some interesting features. For example, those audio cones on the side, I'm hearing that those allow you to feel things. The adjustable plate on the front, that will allow for expansion in the future without needing to buy an entire new headset. The gigantic lenses on the front, that has a 150-degree field of view, and the resolution of the panels, higher than the Vive Pro. And this is going to be selling at a competitive price, meaning either at a loss or at cost on the Steam platform. The most important point to make about selling on the Steam platform is community market money and the Steam wallet codes. You can sell a knife, a hat, a skin, to buy a VR headset, and Valve knows it. So not only are you capable of purchasing one of the best VR headsets that will release in the future with skins and hats and knives, but it's gonna be bundled with Half-Life VR, the game that Valve is intending to be the Half-Life 2 of virtual reality. So what can you expect from HLVR? Well, it's running Source 2, an engine that we have been waiting for development tools for years. We were told we were getting them for free back in 2015, and it's 2018, and we don't have the tools. So there's no evidence that points towards this, but it just seems like something Valve would do. So speculation, imagine if Valve made HLVR moddable in the same way that Valve made Half-Life 2 moddable. Imagine if Valve allowed people to create their own campaigns, total conversions, or any kind of first-person shooter VR game they want based off their assets and their engine, and then just distribute them on the Steam Workshop, or maybe even allow them to sell them on the Steam Marketplace if they're good enough. That'd be great. And to be completely honest, Valve's success is based on the modding community, and if they still care about content creation in UGC, then that would be a great way to incorporate them in. And that, of course, is dependent if Source 2 is far enough along to be distributed properly amongst all the different people on Steam. Oh, and I guess from a story perspective, there is one other thing people can expect. You know how when I hear a leak, which I hear many, many times a week, you really can't believe it unless you hear it from other people? So what I usually do is I'll compare notes with different people and I try and triangulate that information. Well, I was able to get 3 different people confirm to me this piece of information. Half-Life VR is a prequel to Half-Life 2.